Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. I'm excited to get started in today's training. I've been out for a couple of weeks, actually, if you follow me live, and just getting back. So I'm super excited to get started. LinkedIn seems to be still giving me my little hiccups. It's funny, we have 200 people registered for the training and not quite that many who are on live yet. So we'll see about how LinkedIn pushes it out. Do me a favor in the chat. Let me know how you're coming in. Most importantly, let me know how you heard about the training like 5 minutes ago, not originally. But did LinkedIn or YouTube or whatever let you know that the training was happening? If you let me know, I'd appreciate that. Before we get into the formal part of the training, I just like to start off with the tip for those of you showing up early and on time. I really appreciate it when you do. There's this great book out there called Coach Wooden's Greatest Secrets. Coach Wooden's Greatest Secrets. He's a famous basketball coach. And the tip is around this line, the subtitle of the book, The Power of a Lot of Little Things Done Well. The Power of a Lot of Little Things Done Well. One of the examples in the book that I really liked and it hit for me was a story that they talk about. Coach Wooden would come in and he would coach championship level teams. So he would come into professional ball players who are being paid millions of dollars to win games, who know what they're doing, right? And he would come in at the beginning of a season and say, okay, fellas, let's all sit down. We're going to learn how to properly put on our socks. And people are like, what are you talking about? We're world champions. It's like, that's for a 2-year-old or a 4-year-old or something, right? It's not for us. We're grown men, professionals making money in the NBA. And what he would say is anybody can pay attention to the sensationalism, the three-point shot, maybe shooting from half court or something. But when you focus on putting your socks on correctly so they're not bunched up and you play an hour-long game or something, you're not going to get blisters or hot spots on your feet, which are going to interfere with your ability to play well. I don't need you to do half-court shots. What I need you to do is to go full speed the whole game. And so when we learn to put our shoes and socks on correctly as basketball players, we're going to be really good at all the rest, right? You do the little things well, and that adds a lot of power to the game or what you're trying to do. And it's the same thing for us, right? In government contracting, if we focus on the little things, the big things will take care of themselves. And you might think winning contracts is like a big thing. The little things are, for example, how we send emails, which is today's topic, right? Or the process. That's a really important thing. And so as we get started, that was just a quick tip for those of you showing up early and on time. I appreciate that you do. One of the things that we're going to be talking about today, obviously, is writing emails effectively. When you write an email effectively, you're going to get what you want. And it doesn't mean you're always going to get a yes. So if you're writing an email to try to get a meeting, sometimes that answer is yes, sometimes that's no, or sometimes it's, hey, you need to meet with Sally. But as long as you get one of those 3 answers, you're getting what you want. Not what you desire. What you desire is a yes, right, in a contract. But what you want from that email is to get an answer. And when you write effective emails, you're going to get what you want. Today, I'm going to be talking about sales emails, but I just wanted to start off with a different kind of an email that just happened in this past week that I thought was so effective to talking about effective emails. And this is around one of my customers who was dealing with a very tough billing situation. They had many outstanding invoices with a customer of theirs, and they were kind of getting this nice runaround, meaning the people they were talking to at the levels they were talking to were nice, but they were basically gatekeepers. They couldn't see past the limitations that they felt were in place, that they couldn't resolve the problem. And so with my customer, I helped them just do 2 main things. One is identify the right people to talk to, and that's an important thing as it relates to today's training. You want to make sure you're emailing the right people to get what you want. You can't want something and then email the wrong person or the person who can't give you what you want. So the first thing we did was identify the right person. And then the next thing we did is help them write a concise email that went directly to the point. And I'll talk more about this in the training, but the idea is to get rid of all the emotions, all the fluff that might be around, outstanding invoices, which is the one we're talking about, and just drive to the problem. We have all these outstanding invoices that have not been paid. We need your help. And the right person was like the head of contracting or something. Within the same day, they got a positive result and moved all this activity forward. And in sales, it's that same kind of thing. When you target the right people and you're reaching out, not in this spammy way, but a really hyper-focused way, like I want to reach out to these companies, you're going to see a lot more effectiveness when you have concise emails, and target the right people. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today as it relates to writing emails that federal buyers open. I'm going to come back and look at the comments in a little bit, but I did want to just ask one more time, if you wouldn't mind telling me, how is LinkedIn letting you know that the live was up and running? We've got almost 200 people registered, I think like right near 200, and LinkedIn is still having somewhat of a hiccup letting people know that we're live. In today's training, we're going to be talking about how to write emails that federal buyers open. And the way I'm going to cover down in today's training session is, first, I just want to remind us about the purpose of an email. I like talking about purpose because I teach process all the time, and everything that we do has a purpose. And sometimes we don't focus on what the purpose is, and we give something like an email too many purposes, and then they can't get the job done for us. And when we focus on the purpose, we really get the results we want. The second thing I'm going to cover down is the framework of a perfect email. I just want to show you these 3 or 4 sections of an email that when you lay it out this way, you're going to have the success that you want. The next thing I'm going to cover down on, the next 2 things are real world examples. So first, how to get your email noticed, and spoiler alert, that's the subject line, right? In an inbox, you need to differentiate yourself from all the other emails that are in the inbox. And then the last thing I'm going to cover down on is real examples of emails. And in fact, one of them is a pretty standard template type one I send out. I'm not sending you the template, so screenshot it. And then the second one is a real example that we've sent in the last week with a customer that so far has had 100% open rate. Not just open rate, response rate, right? So it's done a really good job. And I want to show those at the end to you and give you the rationale I followed when I'm in there. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I am the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret, it's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we're going to have repeatable, predictable results. That's what I want for you, and that's what this training on emails is going to get for you. Repeatable, predictable results. You're not going to have 100% open rate or return, scheduling meeting rate kind of thing, but you'll have a predictable number of people who respond to your emails. And so you'll have that kind of success, and you'll have a repeatable process you can follow. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the Government Contracting Success newsletter. This is my newsletter for all things government contracting sales. We have some things that seem a little bit on the edge of sales, but it's all related to sales, because even that is information about an agency and how you can succeed. Join almost 17,000 subscribers in here. It's the largest government contracting newsletter out there, and I'd love to have you be part of it. It's where we share a lot of good information. The last thing is, I just wanted to mention again, thank you first off to the 190, 200 people who registered for today's training. When you do that, it's a very simple thank you to us. We appreciate it. It also increases everybody's ability to network with each other. If you don't know this, I'll do a separate training on how to do this. But when you go into my training and register to attend, then you can connect freely with all those people who are also here. And so you just send them a message saying, hey, saw you in Neil's training. Love to connect if that makes sense to you. The second thing is, when you register for training, LinkedIn pushes it out and it grows our overall community. Not just my network, but your network. You are in your network. This is yours and my community. And so when you register for training, you're helping me grow it. Okay, so let's get rocking and rolling with starting by talking about the purpose of an email. I like to have one purpose for everything out there. So for example, here, the purpose of an email is to get one thing done from somebody else. I'm sending the email to another person. I want something done. So I like to say it's to get one thing. There's a great book out there called The One Thing, and they look at it from a strategic standpoint. If you're going to do something this month, what is the one thing that really matters? Well, if I send an email, what's the one thing I want from the person who's going to receive it? Do I want a meeting, or am I looking to an answer? Like, for example, if I'm in business development and I'm trying to build new relationships, I want a meeting, an introduction meeting. If I'm in capture or doing activities like that, where I'm really trying to do research as well, then I might be looking for an answer. I might be looking for a copy of the previous PWS or an org chart, whatever. So make sure you understand that there's one thing that you're looking for when you're sending out an email. That's the purpose of that email. The next thing I really want you to pay attention to, next two bullets are about what not to do. And this is very important. You're not to inform or educate anybody. When you send an email, sometimes people have this urge to give more information to rationalize why that person should meet with you. That's that third bullet, right? You're not trying to convince them to respond to you. You just want to send that one thing with the ask, and I'll talk about that in a minute, that they say yes or no to. That's all you're trying to do. You're not trying to teach them about your company. You're not trying to say, hey, we do this and this and this. We've done it at this agency, everywhere else. You just want to do enough information, enough words in the email that you get the yes or no that you're looking for. In the fourth bullet, I talk about you want to target people who believe what you believe. This is a great line. You want to target people who believe what you believe, not find people and try to convince them to believe what you believe. It is way harder to do that. There's this bell curve that I show often, and maybe I'll show it at the end of the slides, but the bell curve talks about how many people out of 100 are going to get back to you if you try to do anything. So if I try to schedule a meeting, generally 16 out of 100 people will say yes. And then 84 will say no, right? If I try to sell iPhones and I'm Apple, 16 people are going to buy it right away. The other ones will wait. And so you really need to understand that. And those 16 people believe that the iPhone is the best. Those 16 people will believe that either your company's skill is the best and they're looking to talk with you about it, or they believe what I believe, which is networking is never a bad idea, right? And so they'll be like, no, it sounds good. And I'll show you how I'm targeting the people who are most likely to believe what I believe. And the last thing, just remember the first thing, right? Focus on one thing. When you send an email, the purpose of the email should be clear to you. What do you want? And it should be clear to them through the email that you're sending. I want this one thing. Will you give it to me? Their answer should be yes or no or Sally, right? Sally is always, you need to talk to this other person. But it should not be hard for them to figure out your purpose. So I'm going to give examples in a minute and we'll talk about this, but I just wanted to lay out the framework of a perfect email. And this is not meant to be any kind of fancy thing. I think I'll say this later on, but sending an email and working to get people to open your emails, et cetera, this is a skill. It is not a talent. And I'm sure I said this actually later on, but it's a skill that you can develop. People look at me, and in fact, one of my customers this morning had just said, oh my God, your emails, you're so great at writing the emails. Well, thank you. But the reason I'm good at it is because I've spent a long time doing it, pretty much since emails came around. And I used to be in a company where we all would critique each other's emails. It's like, well, how about this? You make it this way, right? So many people are afraid to get critique. I don't like to be criticized, but criticism is sometimes really helpful, right? And so I've developed that skill over 20 years, right, of writing emails. And so you too, my point is you too can develop these skills. You just have to look at it as a skill and improve it. And every time you write emails, don't look at the customer and go, oh, they're not responding or blah, blah, blah. Look at your emails and go, wonder why I'm not getting the response rate that I would expect. For example, 16 out of 100 people responding. So the perfect framework, in my opinion here, is you need a hook, right? That's the subject line. If you've got a bunch of emails if I have a bunch of emails in my inbox, why would I open yours? Right? There's two reasons, and one you can kind of control and one you can't. The one you cannot really control is your name. And then the other one, though, is the subject line. And the subject line you can control what's in there. And so we'll talk about that. The second part of the framework is the why. Sometimes people talk about value proposition, and I hate that term because it's too many syllables to explain it. Right? The value proposition is just with them. What's in it for me? We are selfish people by nature, and not a bad thing. We're just built this way. If you show me a photograph with 100 people I was at an event for, the first thing I do is not look for your picture. I look for my picture. I'm like, ooh, there I am. Right? It's just instinct. And it's the same thing in an email. When I look at the email, my first thing is not how can I help you? My first thing is how can you help me? Ironically, right, when I send an email, I'm always thinking, how can I help you? Right? That's why it's really important. So when you think about that second part of the framework, you're trying to give them a reason why they should even care that you sent them an email, why they should care about the next part, which is the ask. You're going to ask for one thing that you want. I want a meeting. I want a piece of information. I want a contract. Might be harder with the contract, right? but you need to give them a why and then give them an ask. When you do this, they'll balance your ask against what you're giving them. And you don't have to give them a ton, right? Your value proposition doesn't have to be heavy. I'll show you an example in a minute, but I might just talk about the Army, and that's enough of a why, where I go, hey, I'm looking at the Army, and you go, well, I'm interested in the Army too. Good, I've given you the why. We're both looking at the Army. The next one is, the last one is the signature line. And I'll show you my examples. I got two different examples I have one example on two different emails, but a signature line, I see people just crowd it with way too much. So much so that you even have, for example, your website on it. I say chuck your website, and I'll explain why a little later, but you don't want anything in your signature line to distract from your ask, your one thing. You don't want somebody going somewhere else. I learned this line and really got good at this with, I watched this guy talking about sales pages where people are selling online courses. And they said, when you come in, you need to sit there and look at, you can't distract people. So if you give them a video on a page that you're trying to sell them something, and not just jumping right into the sign up, not sell them something, but like opt in. Hey, opt in for my newsletter, opt in for my free download or something. But if you put a video, now they're going to watch the video and they might get distracted and go somewhere else. So you need to keep us focused. We're easily distracted, but if you keep me focused, you'll keep me, there's a bigger chance I'll give you what you want. And the signature line is one of those ways that you can distract me with all the pictures on there and all this extra stuff. So I'll show you what I mean there. Hey, before I go into the examples, let me just tell you about really exciting news for us. We're very excited to talk about GovCon in a Box. This is a web-based tool or platform that we're rolling out, a toolbox of tools related to the services and processes that I teach all the time. And this toolbox is going to be focused on solving top challenges for GovCon small businesses. Top challenges like getting in the door to meet with federal buyers, finding teammates who want to work with you, and then identifying, pursuing, and responding to the opportunities you can win. I'm really focused on helping small businesses in this area, and we haven't offered tools before. We've done a ton of training, talked a lot about the how and the process, and so now we're going to start bringing out the tools. So if you want to learn more about it, just go join our waitlist at www.govconinabox.com. If you're already on the waitlist, just put GovCon Rocks in the chat for me. Okay, so I got 13 minutes. I'm going to show you 3 big examples. First thing is subject lines that get you noticed. I talked about how the email inboxes are really crowded, right? And we need to make sure it's easy for people to see your email and decide to open it. So the purpose of the subject line is to just catch their attention. Nothing, I sometimes describe it as clickbait, right? Clickbait is not a bad thing. It's bait to make me click on the email to open it up, or bait to make me click on an ad and look at it. Clickbait that goes somewhere else, right, is a wrong thing. If I say, I want to give you process tips for federal sales success, and then when you click on it, it says, buy my product, right? That's not good clickbait. And so you want to have clickbait, but it's like car sales. Car sales is not bad. Unethical car sales is bad. So anyways, in a subject line, we're trying to catch your attention. I already talked about this as a skill, not a talent. Even writing these lines, you'll be able to practice it. People use fancy terms like A/B testing, but don't get caught up with this. Just try a line for a week and see if it's working, maybe 2 weeks. And then if it's not, tweaking, go, is it too long? I have it here that you want it to be 50 characters or less. This is just a rough industry standard because on a phone, 50 characters is about where it begins to get caught off. But what I have found is that phone thing is also good for just the concise message. I'm forcing myself to stay within 50 characters. How do I convince you to open my email in 50 characters? You just got to get a little creative with it. And like I said, keep trying it. I'll give you a couple examples in a minute. Actually, I'll give you examples right here. So here's a couple of examples around 2 different topics, right? I said, get a meeting or get an answer. Intro meeting examples might be that I'm trying to get into an agency. And I do this one all the time with our customers in our workshop when we're doing targeting and then outreach. And that basically is calling 100 people or emailing 100 people. So I might have a subject line that says intro meeting about HUD. That's all I need. And I could try to get fancier, right? Intro meeting about Army and FY24 and blah, blah, blah. I can keep getting too far. But really, intro meeting about HUD communicates all I need to communicate for the person who believes what I believe to click on it. I'm only emailing the people I know who are already at HUD, right? This is me targeting the people who are already winning contracts at HUD. I want to build a relationship with them, join their contracts, or team up to go after joint ones. So HUD is communicating to them that I'm interested in your customer. And so that makes them go, oh, that's my customer. Maybe I should talk with them. And the intro meeting makes it really clear what I want. And are you open to intro meetings? If you're not open to intro meetings, I've already put my ask in the subject line. I've given you a hint to the sale I'm trying to make. I'm trying to sell you on a meeting with me. And then the same thing, I used Oasis, which is a contract vehicle. There are Oasis contract vehicle holders. If I want to get on that contract vehicle with them or get access to their opportunities, etc., by doing this, they're going to say, oh, I have Oasis. Let me talk to you. It's like, I know you have Oasis. That's why my subject line says that, is because I want to get a meeting with you. And so that very short subject line will get me emails open. Remember, I'm only looking for 16 out of 100. If I get more than 16, that's phenomenal, right? I've gotten in the past 27 out of 50 emails, but it's very, very focused, and I came with a lot of experience. The second one is, say we want to get answers from people. We want to get answers from the government program office, et cetera. So the first bullet is an example of what I might do with a contracting officer. 571173, and I know it looks like a NAICS code. I didn't mean it to look like a NAICS code. What I meant it to be was a contract ID. So I know that this contracting officer has this this ID, and they tend to like the IDs so they can look it up and they go, oh, that's that opportunity, or that's that requirement. So here, I'm just trying to put in an opportunity or requirement ID, and then I put in the words clarification question. Something I want to also point out is I use lowercase. I don't use uppercase, right? And so lowercase allows me to be able to make it just seem a little bit more casual. And then the last one is, say I'm trying to push into the Navy and it's NIWC Atlantic. I can say, hey, NIWC Atlantic strategic plan question. And I'm trying to drive interest with them. Is that enough about it to get them to open it up? And then I can kind of communicate a little bit more inside. But a strategic plan is something that all these agencies have. And so they might be open to answering it. As I do these, if they're not getting open, I can shift them around. I go, okay, what's not happening? What's wrong with my subject line, et cetera. Okay, so let's talk about, I got 2 slides in 8 minutes, 2 slides of example emails. And I just want to talk about why I'm doing it. This first one is where I'm trying to connect with a teaming partner, and I'm reaching out to them. So the email that I wrote, in case you're not seeing it, is, hi, John, we're pursuing 2 IT ops in the Army that look promising. Would you be open to a quick call about these or other Army opportunities? If convenient, I'm free any day next week at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Regards, Neil. And then Neil McDonald, CEO of GovCon in a box, an 8A SDVO firm. That's not true. And then I only put in my email address and my phone number. I don't put in my website. And somebody asked me about that. It's like, my website's right there in my email domain. If they really need it, it's there. I don't need to make it more convenient. I actually don't want them to go to my website. I want them to respond to my email. That's why I don't have a link to my website. I'm not trying to take you away from this email. I'm trying to force you to answer this question since you opened my email. So really quick, I'll just explain the purpose of this, right? The first thing is I'm trying to get this why. What's in it for me, for them? I'm saying we're pursuing 2 IT opportunities in the Army, which I know that they're already doing business in the Army. So I'm trying to attract them by saying, I have these 2 that we're looking at in your customer. They look pretty good to us, right? So that instantly makes them go, well, what are they? Maybe I don't know about them. And that happens all the time, where people who are literally in a customer don't hear about opportunities because they're busy doing something and things move by them. So they'll be happy that you're bringing it to them. And then my ask comes in. Would you be open to a quick call talking about these 2 opportunities, or frankly, any other opportunities? And so I threw that second part, or other Army opportunities, because I want to imply that I'm looking for a longer term relationship. And then the last thing I put here was, if convenient, I'm free any day next week at 10 a.m. Eastern. I'm just trying to make it easy for them to say, hey, next Wednesday at 10 a.m. I'm free. If they can just pick one of those days next week, I made it easy. And so this very simple email, right now it's in like 24-point font, but when it's in an email, it is actually really small. it's as big as my signature line, basically. And my signature line is fairly small. So that's an example of an email going out to a teaming partner, asking them if I can get an intro just in general. Here's another example that a customer of mine said it was okay to use this. This is the one we've been getting 100% return on. It's a very quick email to try to find out if we can build teaming relationships with companies that might want to go after a contract vehicle we're going after, right? These are just examples that you can use. And so here, this is related to a real $8 billion contract vehicle called ProTech 2.0. And my customer is looking for a teaming partner. So if you've got a lot of experience, we'd love to talk with you. But anyways, the subject line says potential teaming and then ProTech 2.0. That's all it says. In fact, I might have expanded that subject line. I mean, it's doing fine, but I might have expanded it to just put in NOAA in front of ProTech so people know which agency. But then I wrote, hi, John. ABC is doing capture on NOAA's $8 billion vehicle called ProTech 2.0 that's dropping later this year. We're finalizing our team. Is this an opportunity you'd be interested in discussing? If yes, love to jump on a call in the next few days. Regards, Neil, signature line. And so the reason I did this, first off, I'm pointing out, I almost never use last names. I always use first names. Somebody asked me last week, they're like, I noticed you did that. We always use last names. You're always using first names. I don't actually want to work with anybody who makes me have to be on a last name basis with them. I don't mind, the president of the United States, Mr. President, Mrs. President, whatever, right? I don't mind a title related to the office. But for the rest of us who are in business together, including the government, if we're not on first name basis, then we're not working together. And so I really don't want that relationship. I want it where somebody's like, oh, no, it's Neil, it's Sally, whatever. That's a personal thing. I'm just telling you. So I write the first thing. ABC is doing capture on an $8 billion vehicle that's called ProTech that's dropping later this year. I'm giving them the why, and I'm trying to give them the value prop. Are you interested in this thing? At the same time, I'm putting some of that into the next sentence, which is, we're finalizing our team. Is this an opportunity you'd be interested in discussing? And this is getting them looking at this, am I interested in NOAA? Am I interested in this contract vehicle? I could have explained what ProTech was. I could have talked about the task areas. None of that matters. What I'm trying to find is somebody who's always interested in just figuring it out. They can look themselves and figure out what ProTech is. Really, one of the people who just responded this morning to my customer, which is convenient, they were like, oh, yeah, we looked at it last year. We are interested. We just decided not to prime it, but we'd love to be on a team. It was really ideal, right? Well, my customer didn't need an email that said a ton of stuff. They just needed to wake that other person up to the opportunity and give them a chance to say yes or no. So anyways, really quick emails there. Here's what I want you to remember from today's training. First thing, most importantly, is that email writing is a skill, right? We talk about process, but process is made up of a bunch of different skills. And email writing is a skill that you can develop. If you just take time to get it out there and see what happens, you'll do good. The second thing is, when you send an email, ask yourself, would I open this email? Look at that email and go, would I open it? In fact, send the email to yourself and look at it as in the inbox, unread, and then go, would I click on it? And then would I read it? And then would I respond? And use that as guidance to yourself. Self-evaluation and self-critique is better than anybody else's criticism. And the last thing is, when you do meet with somebody who you've sent out an email, ask them, why'd you agree to meet with me? What about my email made you open? Do you mind if I just ask that? I'm trying to get better at communicating with people I don't know, frankly. Would you tell me what about my email made you click on it and then read it and respond? So that when you do that, you start getting really, really good at these emails. Okay, so remember to subscribe to the newsletter. Love to have you in the Government Contracting Success newsletter. Also register for tomorrow's training. We've got well over 100 people in there. And that training is about, I already forgot what it was about. There's too many of them. Mel, somebody put it out there. Tomorrow's training, how to wow federal buyers in your first meeting with them. So somebody asked me for this specifically, how do we wow federal buyers, right? And so that's out there. And then the last thing is, if you're looking to accelerate your company in the federal market and you're doing 2 million plus, we'd love to talk with you about our workshop. We have a BD Accelerator workshop. It's a 90-day program. It's an investment. It's why I say 2 million plus. Otherwise, just come to these free trainings. You can check that out on govconchamber.com. You'll find a link to that program. For all of us, as we head into the day and into the week, just remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you in the next training.